All right, let's bring up Shutter Sage. How's it going, Shutter Sage?
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah. Hi.
I'm good.
All
I'm
right.
good.
How old are you?
Well, it's nice to be here.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
21 actually.
You're 21. All right. Very good. Happy
Yeah.
birthday. And do you
Yeah.
believe, which God do you believe in? The God of the Bible, the Torah, or the Quran?
Well, I'm a Christian, but I have to stand with the God of the Bible
Okay.
actually. So,
Fantastic. And what is your best evidence, Shutter Sage, that God is moral?
well, I feel like when he created us, he gave us a choice. So, I feel like that's morality enough.
That's morality
The
enough?
choice to, yeah, the choice to create our own reality.
Okay.
Because if the yeah, because if he created us without a choice, the reality will, there wouldn't be any freedom to choose
Got it.
how we should live or not.
Okay.
So I feel like that gesture is morality enough.
Okay. So if I'm hearing you right, you're saying that God is moral because he gave us choice. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Okay. And
Yes. Yes.
could God, now you would agree though that like when bad things happen, not everyone has a choice, right?
Yes. 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 I believe so.
Okay. So what happens? Why don't they have a choice? Why is it okay to take their choice, like victim's choice away and allow the perpetrators to have it?
Okay. Now the thing is, when it comes to choice and free will, it actually complements each other,
Mm-hmm.
because I believe we are here to complement each other. So
Okay.
your choices in a way can impede another person's choices, leading to those bad things you say happening. So when our choices are not complementing each other, it leads to um, a lot of events unraveling. So that's what this reality is.
Yeah.
We can make here a paradise if all of us choose it to be, without the ideology of heaven or a
Yeah.
hell. It all depends on us.
Now there is a paradise waiting for all of us in your belief, right?
Yes.
Okay. Is there free will in that paradise?
Well, according to the Torah, yes, there is free will
There is free
in
will.
that paradise.
Okay. So that
Yes.
means that we could grape and we could schmurder and we could steal. We can punch people out. We could make fun of people, insult them,
Oh,
bully them. We could do all that in heaven.
well, the thing is, the idea of heaven are for those who choose life, for those who choose not to do these things in this reality.
Mm-hmm.
So, if heaven is a list of those who have been filtered through this reality into the next, more like champions of this reality. So, I feel like collectively in heaven, heaven is a place where everyone's choice complements each other. So, those things will not happen.
Okay, those things won't happen.
Yes.
Those choices complement each other. But you would agree that. So, are you saying then that the people who go to heaven who are here are not capable
Yes.
of creating of committing bad acts?
They are, but they have learned to change. That's what this reality is about.
Okay,
It's flexible,
so they learn
unlike
to
other realities.
change. So do
Yes.
they retain that potentiality to commit bad acts when they go to heaven, or do they lose
Well,
it?
potentiality. They would, since this reality is more of a filter system. I see it as a very big filtration tank. So I feel like every possibility or capacity to do evil is left behind here.
Okay, and so and by what mechanism is it left behind here?
Well, the mechanism of choices, waking up every day, choosing to be better than you were yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
There's this saying, that goes, a gentleman is not one who is better than others, but one who is better than his previous self. So I believe that when you choose to be better, that yes, the world can be a better place. But the thing is just that the world cannot be a better place as a collective, because it's impossible for everyone's choices to complement each other in this reality. Hence, the byproduct is suffering.
Okay, but why does everyone's choices complement each other in heaven? Like by what
Well,
mechanism? Yeah, I'm not sure of the mechanism, because if everybody has the capacity to commit bad acts here, and would you agree or disagree that there's some good people who would go to heaven but have committed bad acts, but they just, you know, they turned it around. They figured out how to get to heaven somehow.
yes. Well, without like they did actually because of it's
Hmm.
still true. It's still the same. The mechanism that I'm actually referring to is the mechanism of choices. As it now, as you're sitting here now with me, you can choose not to be here. You can choose to be out shooting random school teenagers, but you chose to be here. So that choice alone has distinguished you from someone else who had the same choice as you. So that's the mechanism. You can't just, it's not that it is this reality was created so that everybody will have the capacity to do both, either good or evil. Because if this world was actually like a paradise, it's just going to be very, very odd. There won't be any sense of true reality
Hmm.
or life. It's just be like when we are here, everybody is just meant to do one thing. So the essence of life is the essence of choice.
Okay. You would agree then that heaven is better than earth, right?
Well, from what they say, it should.
Okay. And then heaven doesn't contain any suffering, but it has moral
Yes,
agency, right?
yes.
Okay.
It has.
Does heaven require evil to preserve evil? Does heaven require evil to preserve freedom?
Okay, does heaven require evil to preserve freedom?
Yeah.
To preserve freedom? That's a tough one. That's a tough one. Well, I will feel like heaven doesn't necessarily require evil to
Okay.
preserve
So then
freedom,
why does earth?
because, well, Earth is actually a learning place.
It's a
Hence the
learning
choices.
place. Okay. It's a
Yes.
learning place. And so then doesn't that imply that if we're here to learn, doesn't that imply that God doesn't know whether or not we know things? Because wouldn't God just, or is everybody just not learning, just not learning from default? Like we all know the same things. Like we're just a blank slate, when we're born and we're here to learn, right?
Well, it is actually because
Okay.
when you are born, you are like a tabula rasa. You are actually born a blank plate,
Blank slate.
but then you are, yeah, a blank slate. And but then when you come into this reality called the world, you soak up so many things. But then it's up to you to choose. Although
Okay.
you know that when you are born, when you reach awareness, you know that you have the capacity to do both. But instead, you choose one. You can't be both at the same time.
Okay. So then why don't we all learn the same things? Because, you would agree that if we're all blank slates, like it just seems like, are you because people don't learn things at the same rates at the same time.
Yes.
It's all based on where you live, geography, all these other things, what family you grew up in, what circumstances you grew up in. So if we're all a blank slate, then why were we all put in different situations so that it would affect us differently and it would affect our learning?
Well, as different situations yield different results and different outcomes. Now, when you put everyone in the same situation, everyone will make. Do you know that when you put everyone in the same situation, everyone would make the same choices?
Okay. And so did God know?
Exactly.
Okay, I think I understand. So then did God know before creating this world that exactly how humans would learn and behave in it?
Well, he did,
He
because
did.
human beings, yes, he did. He know how we learn and behave. It's more of when you um culture microorganisms on a
Okay.
media, you know those that would live longer than others.
Okay. So then
So
so then if God designs the learning environment and he knows the outcomes in advance and he creates blank slate learners, then isn't it fair to say that is every failure, crime, and suffering, everything that is bad is a known product of design? God knows these things are going to happen, correct?
yes, he knew that there
Okay.
would be some defaults.
Okay, so then that means,
So
wouldn't you agree that we're not discovering morality? We're not learning anything. We're just being placed in a system where God already knows who will fail. He already knows. right? Didn't he know, like, even though we're all blank slates, he knows who's going to fail?
Exactly. But that's the thing about this reality.
Okay.
There are certain That's the thing about this reality. Even though you know the outcome, you don't know how the outcome will come about. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Well,
Like,
God knows
you
the
know
outcome,
that
right?
yes, you know that if you set a building on fire, you know it's going to burn.
Sure. Well,
That's the
we don't know
outcome.
the outcome. I agree with you there. We don't know the outcome, but God knows the outcome, right?
Yes, God
Okay.
knows the
So
outcome.
if he
But
knows the
that
outcome and he puts us in this quote unquote learning environment and we're quote unquote blank slates, he already knows what the outcome is going to be. He already knows. So why are we here if he already knows?
Well, I would say that there are two things involved. It's either he knows, obviously, being an all-knowing being, or he doesn't. But I feel like he knows. The
Yeah.
thing is just that the choices are what distinguishes us from those that will fail by default and those that would rise.
But
So
he
it's
already
more of
knows who's going to fail and rise. He already knows that. So why put us? So again, that doesn't really answer why he puts us here in the first place, because he already
well,
knows, right?
well, there's this verse in the Bible when the centurion met Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
It was he said he said to the Jesus, he said to Jesus that Jesus was saying, should he follow him, accompany him to his house to heal his servants? But the centurion was more of, no, if you say it here, then your will be done. But then the Christ was not amazed at the level of faith he had. So I feel like there are certain things that we do that God cannot see entirely.
Okay, then he's not
Like it's
omniscient,
more of
right?
like,
Then he doesn't know everything.
well, it's more of I feel like we're all here learning on impulse. Him, us, and him. I feel like it's the universe experiencing itself. That's what I believe.
Okay. Well, if that's the case, then Shutter, if God doesn't know everything, and then that means that, so then would God have all power? Is God still all powerful?
Well, for him to create this reality, he should be all powerful over this reality. So
Okay.
yes, I believe so.
Okay. So then that means that he has all power, but he doesn't have all knowledge, which makes him negligent because he doesn't understand the consequences of his actions, which, and also by that same token, if he doesn't understand the consequence of his actions, that means he can't fully predict what will happen, yet he's in control of everything. So it's almost like so it sounds like what you're saying, there's a lot of unintended consequences, right?
Well, that was why he gave us conscience to influence each choices we make,
Okay.
good, bad.
Okay.
So it's more of when you create something at random, but
So,
then you leave behind the blueprints to follow.
okay. So then that's, if that's the case, if God doesn't know all the outcomes, if God doesn't understand every outcome, and there's a lot of unintended consequences, it would be fair to say that we would have a lot of unintended consequences too. So why would
Yes.
God punish us for those unintended consequences? If he
Well,
doesn't have the same ones, and yet he's above punishment, right? There's no one to punish God.
well, there are certain things that we have control over. As like there are certain things we have control over:
Mm-hmm.
anger, hate, pain. There are certain things we have control over. Now, these things that we have control over influence our choices. Now, God doesn't give you a gun to shoot someone. You pick up a gun to shoot someone. So that's
Yeah, you
not
can't say
actually
those
in
words.
his
Can't
power.
say the G word or the S word. You have to
Oh, okay,
scrub
sorry.
those. Yeah.
So, sorry. So, yeah, so he doesn't influence our decisions. Our decisions are influenced by circumstances
Yeah.
surrounding us.
I don't think you're engaging really with what I'm asking, because what I'm asking
Okay.
is if God is, because it sounds like the God is just the same as we are, except that he has a lot more power than we do, right?
Yes,
He can
yes.
create all this other stuff. Well, then what that means is, see, that to me, that's even scarier. That's like giving a pew pew to a baby, right? Baby doesn't understand like what this thing is. And
Exactly.
yeah. And so that is, to me, that's extremely dangerous and that's frightening. So then how then could God see the wisdom in turning around and then punishing us for eternity or things that we don't know that God also doesn't know. Because basically God is saying, you should have made the right decision, although you didn't know. But I get an excuse for that because I'm God, because I'm all powerful. I'm more powerful than you. I can do whatever I want, but I'm holding you, because it sounds like from your worldview, what you're explaining to me, that
Yes.
God is holding us to a higher standard than himself.
Well, yes, he is. But the thing
And
is,
that's
when you
hypocrisy.
know,
And
well, the thing,
that's a sin in the Bible. That's hypocrisy.
well,
Jesus
he
specifically railed
actually,
against the Sadducees and Pharisees for that.
no, you know, the thing is, when it comes to this reality and the choices we make, it all falls on us at the end of the day. As I said before,
Yeah, and that's
choices.
not fucking fair, because like I said, if he put in these things and he doesn't know the full consequences of how these things will turn out, and then blames us for it, Shutter Sage. Don't you get that? He's blaming us for it. That's like leaving a pew pew in the pen with a baby, and then if the baby accidentally unalive somebody, then the courts come and arrest the baby and put the baby in prison for life. Do you see where I'm going with this? That doesn't that makes no sense.
Well, that's the thing. It's a two world view. This thing you're saying doesn't happen in every choice. Now, in a case whereby you are giving a
But even
baby
if it
now a
happens
pew pew.
in one choice, that's an atrocity. Even if it happens one time, it's an atrocity. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, men that grip women were not forced to grip them, and men that don't grip women at the same time, we are
Mm,
not taught to grip.
I
So,
agree with that, but we're pivoting. What I'm asking you
yeah,
is, if is it justified to punish somebody when for a system that you set up and you don't understand the consequences? Is it justified to punish that person for failing within that system?
well, no, it's not justifiable.
Okay, so then you would agree then that this God is not moral. If it's not justified, then this God can't be moral. Under the thing that you described, under what you described, this God cannot be moral.
It depends what morality is to him, actually, because this is what morality is to
Okay.
us.
So then again, God sets the standard for morality. So now this is subjective morality. So it's subject to what God thinks. And if God thinks
So
this is
exactly,
so if God thinks
this
this
is
is moral, then it's moral.
exactly
Okay. How do we distinguish that in your mind between God's morality and divine command?
God's morality and divine command.
Mm-hmm.
Now, but God's morality is divine command.
Is a divine command. Okay. So then that
Exactly.
means so basically God is a dictator. God is an authoritarian dictator. What he decides is right. Might makes right. Whatever he decides is right. And if we're punished, then oh well. Yeah.
That's why we're here to learn in this reality. We can't actually know it all. We can actually assume. Can actually assume. But so far, for me, I feel like it's the choices that get us to where we are going to.
Okay. So
Subjective
okay.
or not.
All right. So if God judges for um for a child to be unalived, is that a justified judgment?
Well, it's not a justifiable judgment
It's
because
not
the child
justifiable. Okay. So
is
we
not
have two
justifiable.
instances where, and you would agree, God has the power to judge to unalive children, right?
He does.
And he's done it before, right? According to your Bible.
Well, with the Canaanites, yes,
Oh, more than that. Canaanites,
and
Jebusites, the Hittites. There's a whole host of people.
well, there's a
A
long
long
list.
list. Exactly. It's a long list of people. Yeah, you'd agree with that, right? So that's what I'm trying to. So then the unalivement of the children was not justified. However, since God has all the power and God calls the shots morally, then that's it. That's what I'm trying to understand
Well,
from your point of view.
so far, from our point of view as humans, you can say that's right. But on a larger scale of things, I'm sure it's more complicated than that. But it's
Mm.
something that we were created not to understand. So that's the flaw.
Okay. So if you don't understand it, then Shutter Sage, it's possible that this God could be immoral and evil, and you would never know. You'd have no idea how to verify that.
Well, yes, you wouldn't have any idea.
Mm.
You wouldn't have. You can't tell.
Okay.
But we are just supposed to. Well, we are still breathing, so well, he's good enough for me.
Okay. So as long as we're breathing and alive, that makes him good. That makes him okay. But if he's committing all these atrocities, yet we're still alive, it's okay. God is good.
Well, you caught me there. You caught me there. But well, it's this reality. I feel like things are still unfolding, and I feel like there is no end to this world or the next. I feel like we all know there's no grand end to anything. I feel like it's a whole learning process.
Okay. Well, I mean, I hear the learning process, Shutter Sage, and I would agree with you in that, but I mean, I don't believe in any gods, right? I do believe in a learning process. But the problem with that is that if this see now if the God that you've described to all of us is real, then I don't see how it's a learning process at all. It seems like it's a setup. It's it's a
One-sided.
it's one-sided. It's a setup because if it's whatever is moral and right as whatever this God says, that means that if God just wanted to smite my family for no reason, then I guess that's what it is, and I have to accept it and be okay with that. And don't you see a problem with that?
Well, I actually do see, but from the commandments, you can see a little reflection of his morality, where
Mm,
he says we shouldn't do this, we shouldn't do that, with things which we would
sure.
normally do. So
Yeah, we
it's a
shouldn't do this and
reflection.
we shouldn't do that.
Well,
Yet,
it's a reflection.
but see, the problem is that God is allowed to do those things to us. And again, that's hypocrisy. And that's the very thing that Jesus was telling the Pharisees and Sadducees they were doing, and that they would not see the kingdom of heaven. Remember?
Yes, I can recall.
Yeah.
I can
So
recall.
yeah. So if Jesus is, rebuking these these Pharisees and Sadducees for the very thing that God is doing, then how can we possibly call this God moral?
Well, I feel like, as I said before, the commandment is a reflection of or an insight to what we feel what his morality might be.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, the actions that were taken in the Bible are circumstantial. There are certain events relating to those actions. So we cannot totally condemn this God to be immoral.
Can't
We
totally
cannot
condemn
totally
them.
we can't totally condemn.
We could partially condemn them. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, that's why we have free will. Because if it's a dictator, he will unalive us while having this conversation. So
Yeah, he would if he really
yeah,
were.
if he
That's
were.
assuming he existed. Yeah, probably. I yeah. So, all right. Well, hey, listen, Shutter Sage. I think you're going to be my last guest of the day. So, hey, I appreciate you coming
Uh,
up.
uh,
Um,
thank you very much.
yeah, it was a good conversation. I appreciate it. Have a good day.
Mm.